We've got a fun show to get to on this President's Day, but really quickly, make sure to join the channel because we're going to have a lot to talk about during free agency, which kicks off in less than a month, and we're trying to pick up another 100 subscribers before March 11th. So if you haven't joined the channel, please consider going ahead and doing so if you enjoy our content. On today's show, I want to talk about a possibility that hasn't been discussed much this offseason because, frankly, it doesn't seem like a possibility, and that is, could Russell Wilson get traded, right? Naturally and rightfully so, we've all jumped to the conclusion that the Broncos are going to release him because who would trade for Russell Wilson? With that contract and with the way he played, it doesn't seem like you'd even find a CFL team that would trade for Russell Wilson. But maybe that's not the case. Jeremy Fowler hopped on SportsCenter and talked about Russell Wilson, and I want to share what he said with you guys. I've talked to several teams who still believe that he's a full-time starter. There's a job for him somewhere. So I saw that, and most people saw that and thought, okay, well, Russell Wilson's going to sign somewhere nice in free agency maybe where he could start. But that's not the conclusion I came to. I came to the conclusion of, wait a minute. There's a handful of teams out there that think Russell Wilson is still a full-time starter. So if you've got a handful of teams that believe Russell Wilson could be a starting quarterback for them in 2024, all you need is one of those teams to go, well, we don't want to wait for Russell Wilson to hit the open market and maybe sign with us or maybe not sign with us. Let's trade for him. It's not going to cost much. It won't cost much. It would be a late day 3 pick, a round 7 or a round 6 pick going to Denver. Basically nothing, a bag of footballs for a team to skip the line, get a fast pass, go, we don't want to wait till free agency where Russell Wilson may choose to sign with us or may not choose to sign with us. We can get the quarterback that we think is a full-time starter for a 7th-round pick. Talk about an absolute bargain deal. Now, as for the contract element of this, Russ signed that 5-year, $242 million extension with $161 million guaranteed. Don't get hung up on the contract. Russell Wilson does have a no-trade clause, which means he would have to approve anywhere he got traded to. But I'm sure Russell Wilson would just be happy to have some team want to have him be their starting quarterback. Now, if a team were to trade for Russell Wilson, well, they and Russ would get together before the trade went down and say, you got to rip up your entire contract. Like, we're not paying you what Denver paid to you. So agree to a new contract when you get traded to us. So don't get too hung up on, no team's going to trade for that contract. They won't be trading for that contract. They'll be trading for Russell Wilson, who will have to agree to a new contract. And I'm sure Russell Wilson would be much more obliged and much more eager to go to a team that wants to trade for him, that believes in him, than maybe just going to free agency and seeing what types of offers he gets. Now, the Falcons and Raiders are 2 teams to watch for, although it's not likely we see an interdivision trade. The Vikings could have some interest if Kirk Cousins goes to one of these other teams in free agency. The Patriots at number 3 may conclude Jaden Daniels is not our guy. Let's go get Marvin Harrison Jr. and just roll with Russell Wilson for a year. The Steelers ping-pong back and forth as to whether or not they want to go external for their starting quarterback. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are likely to re-sign Baker. But what if these other 5 teams on the screen give Baker a bigger contract offer and Tampa Bay is left at square one and they decide, well, let's go with Russell Wilson. He's our best option. I still think Russell Wilson will end up getting released, but I do think that there is some momentum to, if what Jeremy Fowler is saying is true, that several teams believe he is a starting full-time quarterback in this league. All it takes is for one of those teams we just looked at to go, I don't want to wait till free agency to maybe sign him. There's a team out there that might think Russ is the ultimate bargain. Trade a 7th round, trade a 6th round pick for Russell Wilson. He agrees to a new contract, which is a vet minimum deal because any money he makes from his next team is subtracted from what the Broncos owe him. So you know Russell Wilson is going to agree to a very low-paying contract to make sure Denver is the one that's putting food on the table for him, not his new team, so they could spend more money on other free agents to maximize their roster in 2024. Now, one of those 6 teams that jumps out to me as a potential trade destination, the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons last year went 7-10 with awful quarterback play. And if they had a much more stable quarterback, they go from 7-10 to 9-8 probably, maybe even 10-7. And all of a sudden they are winning the NFC South and hosting a playoff game. So I think a trade could look something like this. A 6th-round pick for Russell Wilson. It's not going to be anything more than that, right? For all those teams that have interest in Russell Wilson, they have interest up until it's too big of an asking price for a trade. And then they just say, we'll test our luck at free agency. We're not about to give you good draft compensation for a quarterback that we know that you are going to release at some point, so we'll just wait you out. But maybe a team like the Falcons goes, why risk it in free agency where Russ could sign with another team when we can get the quarterback we think is going to be a huge difference maker for us for the price of a future 6th-round draft pick? That's nothing to GMs. That's just something to keep an eye on. Now, I've got more thoughts on this entire situation in just a moment. But first, a quick shout out to our sponsor today, which is Game Time. If you are thinking of going to a local sporting event, like an Avs game, a Nuggets game, or a Rockies game, get started with Game Time today because they are giving Broncos Country $20 off when you use the code BroncosChat after downloading the Game Time app. Now, let me tell you a little bit more about Game Time. It's the best seats for the lowest price guaranteed. One of my favorite features about Game Time is you can get an awesome view of your seat before you purchase your ticket. That way you don't show up to the venue and you have no idea just how much in the nosebleeds you were, or you were sitting right behind a big pole. So get with Game Time today and save some money on your next Avs, Nuggets, or any other local sporting event you check out when you download the Game Time app and redeem code BroncosChat. Now, I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video, but shout out to Game Time for supporting the Broncos Breakdown. Russell Wilson comes off 2 very disappointing seasons in Denver, right? No one thought it would go down this like, not even the Seahawks thought it would get this bad in Denver. And we don't need to rehash what were 2 very underwhelming seasons with him throwing 16 touchdowns in year 1 to year 2, a good jump, a big jump in his touchdown to interception ratio. But ultimately, quarters 1 through 3 were filled with a whole bunch of nothing from the offense. And then the 4th quarter was filled with chuck it down to Courtland Sutton and hope he catches it. And that's why we didn't see a great average depth of target from Russell Wilson. He was often checking it down to his players, something any quarterback can do. And overall, not a lot of explosive plays in the passing game. Now, I do want to flirt out and just toss out this idea of, I feel like it would be the most Broncos thing ever with all their horrible quarterback luck since Peyton Manning retired, for Russell Wilson to go to a team like the Falcons, help them win a division title, maybe win a playoff game, and win comeback player of the year in 2025. I mean, there's no clear runaway, I feel like, for maybe Aaron Rodgers, I suppose. But what if Rodgers has never a good year? I don't know. But that would be the most Broncos thing ever. So it kind of got my wheels turning a little bit. Who's the best Broncos quarterback since Peyton Manning? So we're going 2016 to present. Best Broncos quarterback since Peyton Manning retired. Here's how I ranked them from best to worst. As backwards as it might sound, I think the season you just got from Russell Wilson is the best quarterback season you have gotten since Peyton Manning retired. So, of course, naturally, you want to move on from that since you've been struggling to find a quarterback since 18 hung it up, and that you get the best single season out of a quarterback since then, and you decide to go a different direction. I know there's more to it, but like just surface level, that seems a little messed up. I think Teddy Bridgewater would have to be second. Like, I'm open to changing this list up because it's a very pathetic list, if we're being honest. Trevor Siemian, Joe Flacco, like who you want me to take out Trevor Siemian for like Paxton Lynch or Brandon Allen? Brandon Allen, I thought had some good games. It's sad. That's what it is. It's just sad. Some other Russell Wilson news. We talked about this before the weekend, but if you haven't heard, Thomas Gounley from BusinessDen wrote, Denver Broncos quarterback Russell Wilson and singer-songwriter wife Ciara are accepting offers and providing tours to prospective buyers for their mansion they own in Cherry Hills Village, sources tell BusinessDen. So, I think Russell Wilson is gone by March 15th. To me, it seems like it is a done deal. Sean Payton might have said that nothing has been decided and that they aren't going to let this take too long, but they said that over a month ago. I mean, I thought they could have made the decision during the Super Bowl week they wanted to move on from Russell Wilson. So, March 15th, if Russell Wilson is still on the Broncos roster by then, I will be absolutely floored. I'm talking Michael skinny dipping type of weather in January type of floored. Now, before we get on out of here, it is President's Day, so I figured this would be a nice, fun, topical question to wrap up the show. Who was the president when you became a Broncos fan? Let me know who was calling the shots, who was in power when you first became a Broncos fan down below in the comment section. That will do it for us on this edition of the Broncos Breakdown. Thank you so much for tuning in on your day off. Hopefully you had a nice day off, and hopefully this is a nice way to wrap it up before you get back to work on Tuesday. We're going to sign off and see you guys all later.